Max Verstappen, a name synonymous with raw speed, ruthless consistency, and a relentless hunger for dominance, may be on the verge of one of the biggest decisions in his Formula One career. For years, he's been the face of Red Bull racing, the unstoppable force, the man who brought them back to glory. But now, the air around Red Bull is tense, unstable, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like Max might be eyeing the exit. Let's rewind. Since 2021, Red Bull has been riding high. 3 straight drivers' titles, multiple constructor wins, and the RB19, arguably one of the most dominant F1 cars ever built. But 2025? It's already looking like a sharp detour off that golden path. The Bahrain Grand Prix exposed everything. The RB21 lacked pace, looked sluggish in corners, and more worryingly, showed signs of deeper aerodynamic flaws. Sources inside the team are whispering the worst-case scenario, fundamental design issues that can't be patched up with mid-season upgrades. In F1, that's a death sentence for a championship campaign. And Max? He's never been shy about speaking his mind. But this time, it wasn't just post-race frustration. It was different. Defeated. He called himself just a participant in this year's title fight. Not a contender, not a hunter, just there. That kind of language is not what you expect from someone with championship DNA. It's the kind of thing you say when you've already started thinking about what comes next. It wasn't just Max who was upset either. Behind the scenes, his manager, Raymond Vermeulen, confronted Helmut Marko in a moment that's already being described as one of the most intense garage incidents in recent Red Bull history. Vermeulen, usually composed, reportedly gave Marko a full-blown dressing down. Shouting, frustration, emotion, the kind of confrontation that screams, something is very, very wrong. Shortly after, Red Bull held an emergency meeting. But meetings don't build fast cars, and this one didn't calm the storm. Now let's widen the lens. While Red Bull tries to patch the cracks, another team is silently building a trap, and Verstappen is the prize. Aston Martin. At first glance, they're still finding their feet. Their 2025 season has been underwhelming, but that's not where their eyes are. Everything they're doing, from strategic hires to power unit partnerships, is focused on one thing: 2026. That's when F1 enters a new engine regulation era, a reset button, and Aston Martin wants to lead the charge, not just participate. To do that, they need a generational driver. They need Max. Behind the scenes, sources say Aston Martin has already put out feelers, and maybe even early proposals, to Verstappen's camp. And it's not just about throwing money at him. They're building a team for him. Let's break that down. First, there's the Honda connection. The Japanese manufacturer will supply Aston Martin's engines starting in 2026, and they love Max. Koji Watanabe, president of Honda Racing, went out of his way to express how much Honda respects Max's input, communication style, and leadership. Their engineers trust him. They've thrived with him. This isn't just a power unit partnership. This is a reunion that makes sense. Then, there's Adrian Newey, the architect of Red Bull's success. He knows Max better than almost anyone in the paddock. If Newey really is joining Aston Martin, and many believe he's already been courted, then this is no longer just speculation. This is a statement. Max, come build a dynasty here. Add Rob Marshall into the mix, plus significant investment from Lawrence Stroll, and you start to see the bigger picture. Aston Martin isn't building for the midfield. They're building a legacy team. And Verstappen is at the center of their blueprint. But there's one massive complication, or rather, one Canadian complication: Lance Stroll. Let's be real. Lance hasn't had a terrible career. He's scored podiums, had solid qualifying sessions, and occasionally, he's genuinely impressed. But he's not Max Verstappen. He's not a generational talent. He's not the guy who will drag a midfield car into a podium on sheer willpower. And most importantly, he's not the future of F1. This puts Lawrence Stroll in a tough spot. His son is baked into the DNA of the team. The entire project began as a family-led mission. But if he wants Aston Martin to evolve from ambitious challenger to world champion, he might have to make the hardest call of his career, replace his own son with the most valuable driver on the grid. The alternative? Drop Alonso. On paper, that makes more sense. Fernando's in his 40s. He's hinted that 2026 could be his farewell season. It would be a graceful transition. But Alonso is also a racer's racer, and not someone who'll willingly step aside unless he believes the car is truly out of reach. And here's where the politics come in. If Max comes in and dominates Lance, the pressure on Lawrence becomes unbearable. Sponsors will ask questions. Honda will expect results. Even Nui, now likely acting as more than just a passive advisor, will have a say in who gets the keys to his creation. This isn't just about car performance, it's about legacy, about whether Aston Martin becomes the next Mercedes or the next nearly there but not quite team. Juan Pablo Montoya, a former F1 star with sharp insight, believes the switch is coming. He thinks Verstappen will get an offer from Aston Martin that he can't refuse. He might give Red Bull one last year to sort themselves out, maybe two. But he knows that in the new F1 era, opportunities are rare. Miss the moment, and someone else takes your place. Even if Adrian Newey does follow Max to Aston Martin, Montoya says it will take time to rebuild a title-challenging machine. But make no mistake, Max wants to be part of the rebuild, not just its beneficiary. And then there's Mercedes. Toto Wolff is watching all of this very closely. He's committed to George Russell and rising star Kimi Antonelli for now. But this is Formula One. Commitments last only until the next game changer enters the market. And Max? He's that game changer. Martin Brundle summed it up perfectly. If Verstappen becomes available, Russell should be concerned. Toto missed the opportunity once when Max was younger and less proven. He won't miss again. So what happens now? Red Bull is on a knife's edge. Verstappen's confidence in the team is fading. Honda is already courting him from the other side. Aston Martin is quietly assembling the Avengers. And Mercedes? Well, they're never out of the race for a superstar. This might be the most high-stakes driver decision of the next decade. It's not just about contracts or money or even championships. It's about where Formula One goes from here. Does Max stick with the team that built his legacy? Or does he roll the dice and try to build a new one? With a new team, new power unit, new everything. And if he does move, who makes way? Will it be the aging legend Fernando Alonso? Or the billionaire's son who was never meant to be expendable? Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you believe Verstappen will walk away from Red Bull? And if he does, is Aston Martin the right move? Or does a surprise twist still bring him to Mercedes? Hit like if you think we're watching the beginning of F1's next power shift. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story, it's far from over.